My name is Lavinia Rhoda. It is I who carries on the great Idris's mission and legacy. It is you, though, who must save the world of man.
2026's follow-up to breakout anime Souls-like with Vampires, 2019's Code Vein 1, had my hopes high when it was announced.
I know it's all new, but it's okay. You can trust me.
And although I try not to get too hyped for games these days, based only on a bit of gameplay and a launch trailer, I couldn't help myself. If you follow the channel, you know I'm no stranger to Soulsborne FromSoft games or Souls-like games. And with Code Vein 1, I recently just replayed it for a full walkthrough series in late 2025, after already playing it 3 times before, just because I was so excited for the sequel. On paper, it sounds like a great evolution. Take what made the first game so great, solid combat, fun bosses, a deep variety of build options, and a very unique blood code build swap out mechanic, and add an open world inspired by Elden Ring, and maybe some additional system upgrades. However, it is in the execution after my 45 hours of playtime, completing all main stories, all side quests, and unlocking all 3 endings, beating all the bosses and unlocking 100% of the achievements, where Bandai Namco took a great idea and ultimately dropped the ball. I won't say I didn't enjoy aspects of it a lot, after all. You don't go through full completionist run like that on your first playthrough just to make a YouTube series. I wanted to keep playing, but the glaring issues that plagued the game are so painfully obvious after the first 10 hours. So let's talk about it.
These 2 were once revenants, turned to stone by a Forma. A century ago, one came to raid Magmel Island. The other is a revenant who tried to thwart him.
First off, playing the first game isn't required to understand this one. Though this is the same universe, the game happens in a different timeline, and more specifically, in multiple different timelines, and has very little connection beyond the general world building and the build system of the game itself. That is both a good and a bad thing. It lets the story be itself, but it also kind of ignores a lot of the lore and depth the first game established, making those of us who did play the original feel like all that effort to save the world maybe didn't matter. The Code Vein universe is based on humans living under a society of immortal vampire soldiers called Revenants, created from human corpses to fight monsters. The humans of the world are often called bloodbags and are mostly at the mercy of the Revenants. You play as a nameless, voiceless Revenant hunter who's kind of a human hybrid, waking up to meet Lou Magmel, a companion who has split her heart in 2 and shared it with you, giving you life. The game throws a lot of lore at you and a lot of made-up words in the opening hours. A plethora of cutscenes, trying real hard to explain all this. But don't worry if you don't get it. I didn't get it that much either for the first few hours. Despite that, the overall plot is pretty straightforward, once you dig yourself out of all that terminology. You're in an apocalyptic world at the brink of complete annihilation, like 100 other games, and are tasked with finding and slaying a group of former heroes who have morphed into monsters and are now trapped in large cocoons in the present. To do this, you need to travel back in time to each hero's era using your new companion Lou's special time traveling ability. This becomes one of the best ideas Code Vein 2 has. Going back in time, you meet heroes before they turn and learn their stories and become their friends. They become your AI-controlled companions in their own era, and some either in the present or in a free exploration era to fight alongside you.
I hate rats. Well, can't say I remember hiring you, but if you're game, lend me a hand.
They also gift you their unique armor builds to help enhance your stats. Each hero is unique and interesting, and for the most part well voice acted. Some have real solid story arcs that actually had me favoring them, feeling bad when you have to release them in the present and kill them. Mainly because they've evolved into these horrible monsters, and I guess are about to destroy the world. Like I say, you kind of just have to go with this story. It's odd, it's convoluted, it's pure anime pulp, but it's kinda good too. Once you slay them in the present timeline, you're able to do a special time decision quest line for each one, with a hope to go back and change their fate, and thus change the future for the better.
Won't hold back. Fight to the end.
This is where the bulk of over 40 hours of gameplay happens. Unlike a traditional FromSoft Souls game, which relies on reading a lot of things to find anything out about the area, and a bit of random dialogue to build the universe, Code Vein 2, like the original, does not shy away from a lot of cutscenes and a lot of voice acting to tell its story with intention. Ultimately, your quest leads you to try and save the world by completing their main hero quest lines and defeating the final hero to stop an impending disaster. And the more you do that, the better your ending of the game will become, with a total of 3 sequential endings available. Build variety is one of Code Vein's calling cards. Unlike other Souls-likes where you level up and put points into different stats, forcing you to pick a playstyle, unless the game allows you to reset, Code Vein uses something called blood codes. These layer on top of your base stats that increase with each level, and stack certain stats and abilities to create unique build types. I played for most of the game with Josie's build code, which unlocks all the way up to 4 tiers and focuses mostly on strength and defense, and scales with strength weapons. But at any time, I could swap to another one, say a Holly's code, and suddenly become a magic range build. All I would need to do is to make sure I had an upgraded different weapon type that scaled with her build. In this case, it would be mind, which is magic, instead of strength. Despite this real cool flexible system, in reality, the lack of really unique enemies or bosses that are weak to certain types of attacks made me pretty lazy, and I just stuck with the strength for the entire playthrough. That's because if I ran into an enemy that was best with range, I could also just change my AI controlled companion and have them help me with support or damage. But it is still the most unique aspect of Code Vein, and it lets you really experiment with builds quickly without worrying about ever being locked in. Along with blood codes, you have Forme, Ichor, and a collection of other made-up words to describe what is actually pretty simple concepts. First up, we have special attacks called jails. They're called jails because they live in a trapped cage on your back, kind of like a backpack, I guess. The jails allow you to wield special attacks that drain the enemy's power. In this specific game, they drain the enemy's blood, which the game calls Ichor. These, in a combination with special abilities applied to your weapons, which the game calls Forme, let you add buffs to your weapons, yourself, or your companion, and use up the different amounts of Ichor blood you drain. It creates a real nice simple system of attack, drain more blood from the enemy, then use that blood in your special moves to buff yourself or use a special attack. It's a real nice sort of cycle. You've got a solid variety of weapon types from your traditional two-handed greatswords and axes to faster one-handed swords to even faster dual-handed swords, and then range options like guns. There are also special shields for blocking and parrying and dodging that you can pick up and equip. For items, you have a huge amount of different items, both found and crafted, for a basic crafting system that apply effects to your weapons or take off status effects enemies apply to you or help buff you. And finally, you have your boosters, which act like charms or pendants in other games to add semi-permanent enhancements to your build, like say improving a certain weapon's attack or increasing a key stat so that you can possibly equip something. Gameplay and combat work for the most part, but it's also where the game starts to show its lack of polish compared to the first game. Yes, big heavy weapons swing slow and take up a lot of stamina. Smaller weapons are faster, require a lot more hits, but use less stamina. You have a dodge, the option depending on your gear to block or parry incoming attacks. You have a jump and a sprint, You even have a motorcycle that works much like a horse in any other open world game, but seems to get stuck on things a lot. And you can even get behind enemies and backstab them for more damage. With enough attacks, you can stagger an enemy, and that will let you use your special attack to drain more Ichor and hurt them more. On the surface, it makes sense and it works. But as I kept playing, the cracks in the quality of those controls and the balance issues start to show. The developer has already said they're going to work on rebalancing a lot of these issues, but in my early access version, it was a mess. If you're knocked down, it seems to take forever to get up. Then when you do get up, you stand there for a second, so you can't quickly dodge out of the way as you get up. That led me to smash the button to dodge constantly as I was slowly standing up and standing there for a second. The backstab rarely works. I think I only got a handful my entire playthrough, whereas in the first game I was backstabbing like a pro, especially slow big bosses. Then there's the parry time. You can use one of your forme to do a special parry, or you can equip a special shield that you can use as a parry, but they never seem to work. The timing is really hard to figure out. In fact, the only time I was able to master it was against the first real boss in the game, because I didn't have any other option, and I was forced to sit there for half an hour and figure out the timing with my parry against him, but after that I never used it again. And in fact, when I did try to use it here and there, it just didn't work. I pretty much gave up and just focused on dodging, or occasionally just holding down the shield and blocking. That makes it pretty much useless. Combine all those issues with bosses that often felt very unbalanced, some being huge health bar sponges, and some being laughably easy, it starts to feel like the mid-stretch of this game is a tedious slog. It needs significant time to get improved and to be polished. The next big issue with Code Vein 2 is enemy variety. That is really where this game disappointed me the most. For such a large open world with multiple timelines and versions, it felt like there was maybe only 30 or 40 actual types of enemies. In fact, I fought the same boss multiple times. Not just the endgame replays, but in basic dungeons and later on, wandering the open world. In fact, one boss you face that has 6 floating swords, I fought at least 5 times. It's really inexcusable for a game this size to get so lazy with its variety of enemies, and it really takes away any interest you have of a New Game Plus replay. This seems to be a case where going bigger is not always better compared to the first game. Elden Ring worked because it was huge, but the variety of locations and enemies was staggering. In this game, you learn the boss moves so well that by the time you fight them for the 3rd or 4th time, it's pretty boring and tedious. It all starts to feel a little rushed, like they needed another 6 months to a year to make this really special. And that's really unfortunate, because I do love the series and I hope there's a 3rd game. Unlike the typical New Game Plus modes, where you need to play it over and over to get each unique ending, you can do all these endings in one playthrough. Once you beat the main boss, you can continue directly into a new series of missions and save a companion and complete a new area called the Sealing Spire, and then you defeat the next final boss. That unlocks the good ending. Then, if you complete all the hero's time decision questlines, you can unlock the true ending, all in your first playthrough. For my playthrough, I ended up doing everything, including the NPC request quests, bettering my relationship, earning upgrades before I even tried to beat the boss the first time. And that helped me rush through the other 2 endings in only a couple of hours. For me, this setup is actually really welcome. When there's so many other games to play in my backlog, I got 100% achievement and finished everything I could do in my first playthrough, leaving me with no real reason to play a New Game Plus. In fact, I'm probably going to leave it right now so that when the DLC comes out, I've got everything beat and I can hopefully just continue with my first play on that. You do also have Exploration Era, which is essentially a slightly easier, middle of the timeline time where you can explore and unlock and visit everywhere on the map with a select group of your companions. Now, it's not all a complete slog, even though I may make it sound a little negative. The first few hours and the last few hours combined with some interesting characters, their stories, kept me going despite the lack of enemy variety and the surprisingly subpar combat. In fact, I still enjoyed myself a lot for the 45 plus hours. Like I say, I can't see myself ever doing New Game Plus, but I'm looking forward to seeing what their patches fix, and I'm looking forward to the DLC that's scheduled to come out. Ultimately, Code Vein 2 is okay, but it's definitely not as great and as special as it could have been. For more reviews, playthroughs, tip videos, and the occasional live stream, keep it locked to Eletodd Plays. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share the videos like this to help encourage me to keep making more content. And as always, enjoy your gaming, everybody. See you next time.
A friend of mine is further inside, and if I don't find him, there's gonna be some serious trouble. You feel like tagging along?